The four perspectives of perception are to me, by me, through me, and as me. The first one is to me. To me has to do with outside feeling, like the perception we have is that everything is done to us. God is outside. We're a victim. We have no control. We get hurt feelings. We think things have impact on us. Everything it has to do with what's happening out here, and then how it affects us. It's a very tough place to come from, and it's easy to come from that place when you feel victimized. When I was 12, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. At the time, I was the youngest person ever to have ulcerative colitis, so my parents were told that if they let the doctor study me, they could get their medical care for free. At the time, they had no instruments made for a kid my size. So it was a very painful situation in all respects, and I certainly felt like it was all being done to me. I felt the illness was something laid on me. I felt how I was being treated by the outside world was being done to me. I was having to go to the bathroom urgently 16 to 18 times a day. I was in 6th grade at the time, and I had to walk 4 blocks to school. And sometimes those 4 blocks could be the most painful and harsh that were possible. Life very much felt to me, being done to me at that time. Next slide, please, Dave. By me is where we take charge and take action. We're responding to me. We feel like we're overcoming the to me stuff. So it's a better place to be. So one of the things that I did in the midst of my illness is I decided I wasn't going to let it stop me from having a life. And so I still went out and played sports. I still went out and played and went to school and did all the things the other kids did, but sometimes got caught in some very embarrassing situations because of the urgency of my disease. And yet I overcame it time and time again. But in this way, it was still, I was reacting or responding to me. But I felt empowered because I was still taking charge of my life. God was still something outside of me. I would pray to him, which is how I thought of it at that time, that it was this him. But mostly what I did was take action and take charge of my life. And many of you may understand this if you've had circumstances that you felt were overwhelming to you, and yet you took action to overcome them. That is the by me stance. Hey, Dave, let's go to through me. In the through me perspective, there's still an outside force, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, spirit. But in this place, we surrender to it. We find a place where we're looking for divine guidance and follow that divine guidance. We are letting go to something greater than ourselves and letting it guide us and letting it, whatever it is, do it. So at one point in my illness, before my 40th birthday, the doctor, I had 106-degree fever and I was in the hospital. The doctors announced I had 3 days to live. They could find no cure, and they were certain I was going to die. At that moment, I surrendered to whatever I thought this outside greater force was, and decided that I was not going to die in the hospital. if I was going to die at all. I was going to do it at home. So I called in the nurse and announced that I was going home. She said, no, you can't. And I said, actually, I can. And from a by me perspective, pulled the IVs out of my arm, called my wife at the time to come get me, and had her take me home. So I'm home, looking out the window, totally surrendering to whatever this greater force was. I was in a lot of pain. 106 fever gives you a tremendous amount of pain. And I was there. I was not resentful. I was not upset. I was in complete surrender to whatever this greater power was when the phone rang. And at the time, I was very much against new agey, hooey type stuff. Everything I did or was a part of was Western medicine. So the call I got was from a woman who knew this about me, but she said, since you're going to die anyway, why don't you go see this healer? And because I was in a mode of surrender, because I was in a mode of giving myself over to whatever greater force this was, I said, okay. And I let my wife take me to this healer who poked and prodded at me for 20, 30 minutes, then said, okay, you're healed, that'll be $150, and sent me home. That night at home, my fever dropped to 101. 101 isn't healed, but 101 isn't dead. And so my surrender continued. And I sold the business and I realized I couldn't do the work I had been doing up to that point. So I sold my business, sold my house, and knew that I was following an inner guidance, a divine guidance to go south. The 101 fever, in the wintertime up north, it gets very cold, and so we were going south. And because I was following this divine guidance, the house sold quickly, the business sold quickly, we were up and moving in no time. We got to a place as far south as a town called Asheville, which I had never heard of. And the first day there, we went hiking. And we met a group of families, all of which had kids my son's age. Out of nowhere. And they invited us to a party the next day. And then they told me about a healer in that town that they were sure could do me some good. And I went and worked with that healer. Now, when I was 28 years old, I had so much scar tissue in my intestines that the doctor said it was no longer a matter of if I would get cancer, but when. When I saw them 5 years later, and they did the same tests on me, they said what they saw was impossible. That the scar tissue did not just heal, it disappeared. That my ulcerative colitis was not in remission, it was gone. And that was impossible. That is the power of through me. Okay, Dave, put up the last one. The thing about asthma is the biggest question we're asking ourselves is who we have come here to be. Asthma is that place where we're no longer seeing God as something outside ourselves, but seeing that we are this God. My favorite description of asthma comes from Rumi, who says that we are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. everything that is possible is actually within us. But the key to living an as-me life is not making plans. It's not setting forth strategies. It's all about who we are being. And deepening who we are being, and then out of that being, allowing whatever to come up. Because what we know from an as-me perspective is that we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings, and our lives work. So of course, whatever comes forth out of our being will of course support our being. It must. So this is an entirely different paradigm than the to me, by me, and through me. This takes us to this whole other place of perspective, this whole other place of seeing life, and because it's so different, it can be scary. So back in September, the work I'd been doing had run out. And I had decided that it was time to live from an as-me perspective, and I was no longer going to proceed in life the way I had previously. So, with very little money, and not knowing what was going to happen next, this past September, I simply went into prayer. And stayed in that place of knowing that if I can just deepen who I am, something will come forth out of that, because my life works, because I am a powerful, creative, spiritual being, and my life works. And one of the very first things that happened was a check for $5,000 showed up. A gift. Unexpected. Out of nowhere. And that money lasted a few months. And I did not take any actions until I was sure what those actions were to be. And so instead of job hunting or going out or feeling any urgency around this at all, I sat quieter and quieter and quieter than who I had come here to be. And then one day in December, woke up with the idea for this center. Woke up with the idea of writing a book. And before the end of January, had a board of directors, articles of incorporation, and begun the process of building this room that you are all now in. I had signed a book deal where I got, not in advance, but I'm actually being paid to write a book. It doesn't even count towards the royalties I get afterwards. These things would not have been possible if I had not been willing to sit in that very dark and scary place of allowing who I came here to be to come forth from within me. It is a very powerful way of being in the world. It is a very different way of being in the to me, by me, and through me. Now, does that mean I'm never in the to me, by me, and through me place? No, I want to be very clear about that. All right? Just today, I got my feelings hurt. Now, if my feelings can be hurt, that's a to me place. When I reacted to my feelings being hurt, that was a by me place. And so it isn't that I have mastered living in the as me place all the time. I don't know if I ever will, but I know that as I make it more present in me, as I take it more in, my life becomes more and more miraculous. Even if I just visit and haven't fully embraced living there. There's an embodiment of who I have come here to be that's happening for me that is as transformational as turning from a caterpillar to a butterfly. I can feel it. I can feel the change within me. And I know, because I am not an extraordinary human being, that means anyone can do it. I'm just another guy struggling along the same path as everybody else. It's been through heartache, sickness, death, all of it. And because I know that's true for me, I know that any one of us can stand in this powerful place. So let's have a meditation around this. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and relax. And imagine yourself on a path. It's the perfect path. It's exactly the path that you would love to be on. It could be in the sand, in the trees, in the woods, in the clouds, in the sky, in your home. It feels perfect underneath your feet. The air feels magnificent against your skin. The sound, the smell. They're absolutely your perfect vision of what that would be. And imagine you reach a clearing. And it is the perfect clearing. With the perfect sounds. The perfect feel. The perfect taste. And there's a chair there. In this perfect spot that is yours. The perfect chair. And you go sit in it. And your body sinks into it perfectly, exactly how you would want it to be. And your whole body responds with, ah. And from this place, imagine yourself as the source of your life. Imagine yourself as not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. Imagine yourself as a powerful, creative, spiritual being whose life is brilliant. Imagine the sights and the sounds, what that would feel like. Your brilliant life. You and the Creator is one. You fully embodying who you have come here to be. And now thank yourself for this beautiful vision of your life, for this beautiful knowing of the brilliance of who you are. And when you are ready, open your eyes.